the day my daughter Melissa took my power of attorney for emergencies. She told me it was only a precaution. Then, at the notary's office, she slid a second document across the desk and said I had already agreed to let her manage everything. My savings, my house, my medical decisions. The notary studied the signature page, then looked at the date beside my name. "Mrs. Clark," she said quietly, "were you here on March 14th? I wasn't. On March 14th, I was in the hospital after a fall, with a fractured wrist and pain medicine clouding every hour. Melissa knew that. She had driven me there herself, and suddenly, I understood that the paper she called protection had never been meant for an emergency. It had been meant to make me disappear from my own life. Subscribe for more stories where the truth is documented. And tell me, would you ever give a relative power of attorney without reading every page? I wish I could tell you I saw it coming. I wish I could say Melissa had always been cold or greedy or careless with the truth. That would have made the betrayal simpler. It would have given me a warning label to hold up years earlier, before I ever put a pen in my hand. But Melissa was my only daughter. For most of her life, she was the child who called when she got a flat tire, who brought me supermarket flowers on Mother's Day, who sat beside William's hospital bed and read him articles from the newspaper when his began failing. She was the one who helped me sort through his clothes after he died. At least, that was the version of her I had carried with me. I was 68 years old then, and I had lived in the same brick house in Willow Creek, Ohio for 36 years. William and I bought it when the neighborhood was still half-open fields and construction dust. We had one bathroom with green tile, a narrow kitchen, and a maple tree in the backyard that William swore was too small to ever give real shade. By the time he passed away, that maple had grown wide enough to cover half the patio. So had our life. William had worked maintenance for the county school district. I spent nearly 30 years as an assistant at the Willow Creek Community Library. We did not have the kind of money people write about in magazines, but we paid our bills. We saved a little at a time. We made repairs before they became disasters. We raised Melissa without making her feel the tightness of our budget, which was something I had once thought of as a success. After William died, I learned that a house can become very quiet without becoming empty. I still had my routines. Coffee in the blue mug with the small chip on the rim, the weather report at 6:30, a walk to the mailbox if my knees were behaving, Wednesday lunches with my friend Louise, church on Sunday, though I had stopped sitting in the same pew because it felt strange without William's elbow beside mine. Melissa worried about me, or at least she said she did. At first, I was grateful. She began stopping by twice a week after work. She brought soup from the deli. She changed batteries in my smoke detector. She showed me how to use the new thermostat when the old one finally gave up in January. "You don't have to prove you can do everything alone, Mom," she told me one evening. I remember looking at her across my kitchen table. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun and she looked tired, not dishonest. Not dangerous, just tired. "I know," I said, "but I like doing what I can. I know you do." That was the beginning of it. Not a threat, not an argument, a hand over mine. A little later, Melissa began asking questions that seemed sensible. Did I have a list of my medications somewhere easy to find? Did I know where William had kept the insurance papers? What would happen if I slipped on the stairs and could not answer my phone? Did I have anyone authorized to speak to the bank if I was in the hospital? Every question came wrapped in concern. Every suggestion sounded like something a good daughter might make. I told her my important papers were in the fireproof box in my bedroom closet. I showed her where I kept the spare house key. I even let her make copies of my insurance card and medication list. Then, one rainy Thursday in late February, she came over with a slim gray folder tucked beneath her arm. "I talked to a friend at work," she said. "She went through something awful when her mother had a stroke. Nobody could talk to the doctors. Nobody could pay the bills. Her family spent weeks fighting over paperwork. I was standing at the stove, stirring chicken soup." "That does sound awful," I said. Melissa placed the folder on the counter. "This is just a durable power of attorney for emergencies. It doesn't mean I take over your life. It means I can help if you can't speak for yourself. I turned off the burner and wiped my hands on a dish towel. You think I need that? I think everyone should have one, she said quickly, especially after Dad. There was a softness in her voice when she said his name. She knew how to use that softness. I do not think she always did it on purpose at first. Maybe that is what still hurts most. I do not know where worry ended and calculation began. I picked up the folder. The first page had my name, Melissa's name, and words I did not fully understand. Principal, agent, durable authority, financial matters.
I should probably read this carefully, I said. Of course, she said. Take your time. Then she glanced at the clock.
I just thought I could bring you to a notary tomorrow morning. It will be easier while I'm off work. But there was a schedule. You can mistake convenience for safety. The next morning, Melissa drove me to a small shipping and document store near the shopping center. A woman named Carla notarized my signature after checking my driver's license and asking whether I understood what I was signing. I told her I did. At that moment, I believed I did. The document said Melissa could handle certain matters if I became unable to manage them myself. I did not love the idea of it, but I had no plans to become unable. It was like keeping a flashlight in a drawer. You hoped never to need it, but it seemed foolish not to have one. Melissa hugged me after we left the store.
Now I can stop worrying so much.
I laughed. I did not realize I was such a burden. You're not a burden, Mom. She looked at me sharply then, as if I had accused her of something. You're my mother. For the next 2 weeks, nothing happened. Or nothing happened that I could see. Then, on March 14th, I slipped. It was early in the morning. The back steps had a thin shine of ice on them, the kind that looks harmless until it is under your shoe. I had gone out to scatter birdseed near the patio, something William used to tease me about because the squirrels ate more than the birds. My foot went out from under me. I remember the sound of the metal railing hitting the side of the house. I remember pain shooting up my arm. Then I remember lying on the cold concrete, staring at the bare branches of the maple tree and trying not to panic. Melissa was the first person I called. She lived 20 minutes away, but she arrived before the ambulance. She came through the gate with her coat half buttoned, knelt beside me and kept saying, "Stay still, Mom. I'm here. I'm right here." At the hospital, the doctor said I had fractured my wrist and badly bruised my hip. They gave me something for the pain before setting my arm. The medicine made the room tilt at the edges. I remember Melissa sitting beside my bed, holding a cup of water toward me. I remember signing something for admission, or maybe discharge instructions. I remember a nurse asking about allergies. I remember being too tired to keep my eyes open. What I did not remember was signing any document that gave Melissa authority over every part of my life. The hospital released me 2 days later with a cast, a walker I hated, and instructions not to climb stairs unless I had to. Melissa insisted I stay at her house for a while. "I can't get you through that back door safely," she said. "And your bedroom is upstairs." "My guest room is downstairs," I said. "Mom, please." She looked exhausted. I was exhausted. And my wrist throbbed hard enough to make me feel guilty for arguing, so I stayed with her for 5 nights. Those days are blurry now, but certain details have stayed sharp. Melissa kept my purse on the kitchen counter, so I would not misplace it. She answered my phone twice when it rang, even though I was sitting 10 feet away. When Louise called to ask how I was feeling, Melissa said I needed rest and would call her later. I remember being annoyed by that. I remember thinking she was becoming fussy, but I did not think she was taking control. Not yet. By the 6th day, I told her I wanted to go home. "You should wait until the cast comes off," she said. "I am not waiting to sleep in my own bed. Your bed is upstairs. Then I'll sleep in the guest room." She pressed her lips together. "Mom, you fell. You need to accept help." "I am accepting help. I'm just not moving in." That was the first real argument we had. It did not last long. Melissa drove me home later that afternoon, but she was quiet the entire way. When we arrived, she walked through every room as if she were inspecting a rental property. "The rugs need to be taken up," she said. "They're trip hazards. I like my rugs. The stairs need another handrail." "Fine. We can get one. And you should probably stop driving until you're healed." I wasn't planning to drive with a broken wrist. She sighed through her nose. Why do you make everything a fight? The question hurt because I had spent most of my life trying not to fight. I looked at her standing in the doorway of my living room, framed by the family photographs on the wall. Melissa at 6, missing her front teeth. Melissa in her graduation gown. Melissa holding her own baby Hannah in a pink hospital blanket. I said. I just want to make my own decisions. For a second, something changed in her face. Not anger exactly. Impatience. It vanished so quickly, I almost convinced myself I had imagined it. Of course you do, she said. I only want you safe. After that, Melissa began coming by almost every day. She brought groceries, but she also started opening my mail. At first, she would pick up an envelope and say, "This is just another insurance statement," or, "You don't need to worry about this one." If I held out my hand, she gave it to me.
Then she began putting certain envelopes in her purse.
I'll help you sort these later, she said. One afternoon, I noticed my electric bill was missing from the stack on the counter. Did you take it? I asked. Yes, I paid it online for you. You have my account information? You gave me the folder with your bills when I was at the house last week. I gave you the folder? You were on pain medication, Mom. You said you didn't want to deal with it. She said it gently, almost kindly. But I did not remember saying that. The uncertainty made me feel foolish. I hated it. Pain medicine can make you doubt your own mind in a way nothing else can. You remember a conversation, but not every word. You know you were tired, but you do not know whether you agreed to something simply because you wanted the person asking to stop talking. Melissa seemed to understand that uncertainty better than I did. The next time she came over, she had changed the subject before I could ask about the bill again. Have you thought about putting me on your checking account? No, not as an owner, just so I can help if something happens. Melissa, you already have the power of attorney. That is different. I know. She gave me a long look. Do you? I did not answer. The following week, I found a yellow sticky note beside my landline. In Melissa's handwriting, it said, "Call Dr. Patel, ask about member screening." I stared at those words until my chest felt tight. I had seen Dr. Patel for years. He was the kind of doctor who remembered that William had been a school maintenance man and always asked after Hannah. I had never once spoken to him about memory trouble because I did not have memory trouble. Yes, I had forgotten where I left my reading glasses. Yes, I had mixed up a Tuesday and a Wednesday after spending nights sleeping badly with a cast on my arm. But I was not confused. When I asked Melissa about the note, she did not even look embarrassed. I thought it might be a good idea, she said.
For what? A baseline for what?
Mom, please don't make this into something ugly.
I felt my face grow hot.
You wrote a note telling me to ask my doctor about my memory because you've been under stress. No, because you want him to think I can't manage myself. Her eyes filled with tears so fast that I almost apologized. That is not fair, she said. I have done everything I can to help you. There it was again, the shift. The moment when my concern became proof that I was unreasonable. I stood there in my own kitchen with one hand wrapped around the back of a chair, and for the first time, I wondered whether my daughter was trying to make me doubt myself on purpose. Still, I did what many mothers do when the truth begins to hurt. I chose the explanation that hurt less. I told myself Melissa was overwhelmed, that she had worried herself into becoming controlling, that once my wrist healed, things would return to normal. I was wrong. 3 days later, my neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, caught me as I was checking my mailbox. "Rebecca," he said, lowering his voice, "is everything all right?" "Yes." "Why?" He looked uncomfortable. "Your daughter came by yesterday while you were at physical therapy. She was taking pictures of the outside of the house." I frowned. "Pictures? Front? Back? Garage?" She asked me whether you had mentioned selling. For a moment, I could not speak, Mr. Alvarez had lived across the street from us for almost 20 years. He had helped William replace the fence after a storm. He knew that house was not just a house to me. "No," I finally said. "I have not mentioned selling." "I didn't think so," he said. "But she said you were having a hard time remembering things." The mailbox door swung shut in my hand. I went inside and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I looked around the room at the small things William and I had chosen together. The copper lamp over the sink, The framed recipe card from my mother, the pale mark on the wall where we had once moved the clock. All at once, I could see what Melissa had been doing. The bills, the phone calls, the question about my memory, the photographs of my house, the way she had begun answering for me before anyone had even asked me a question. I pulled the gray folder from the drawer where I kept it. Inside was the power of attorney I had signed in February. I read every page slowly. Melissa had broad authority if I became incapacitated, but the document itself did not say I was incapable. It did not give her the right to sell my house whenever she pleased. It did not make her my owner. Yet the way she spoke lately, you would have thought it did. At the bottom of the folder, beneath the papers I recognized, was a business card. Holloway Legal and Notary Services. There was a handwritten appointment time on the back. Monday, 10:30 a.m., the next Monday. I did not remember making that appointment. I called Melissa. She answered on the second ring. Hi, Mom. Are you all right? What is the appointment at Holloway Legal? There was a pause. Small, but there. Oh, that! What is it? It's just some updated paperwork, nothing serious. What paperwork? Mom, I was going to explain it when I saw you. Explain it now. Her voice changed. It became patient in a way that did not feel patient at all. It is a more complete power of attorney. The first one was basic. This... My property? Only if you need help. I have not asked you to handle my property. You don't have to be afraid of every document.
I am not afraid. I am asking what I am signing. You are not signing anything you do not want to sign.
That should have reassured me.
Instead, it made me afraid. After we hung up, I called Louise. I told her everything. Not dramatically.
Not all at once. I simply said I was worried that Melissa might be making decisions behind my back. Louise listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, Rebecca, do not go anywhere alone with her. And do not sign a single page until someone explains it to you who does not benefit from it. I looked down at my cast. The doctor had said it would come off in another 2 weeks. I don't want to believe she would do this. You do not have to decide what you believe today, Louise said. You only have to protect yourself today. That was the first thing anyone said that gave me solid ground beneath my feet. I did not cancel the appointment. Not yet. I wanted to see what Melissa thought she could persuade me to sign. But this time, I would not arrive trusting her to tell me what was on the page. This time, I would be ready to read every word. And I had no idea that the date on one signature page would lead me back to the hospital room, where my daughter had started building a life without me in it. On Monday morning, I dressed more carefully than I had in weeks. My wrist was still in its cast, and fastening the buttons on my navy cardigan took longer than it should have. I sat on the edge of my bed and worked at them one-handed, one button at a time, until my fingers ached. It was not vanity. I needed to feel like myself. I put on the small gold pendant William had given me on our 25th anniversary. I brushed my hair. I made coffee in my chipped blue mug, even though I could not hold it comfortably with my right hand. Then I called Louise. You still coming? I asked. I'm already in the parking lot, she said. I looked through the front window and saw her old silver Buick at the curb. For the first time since my fall, I smiled. Melissa had offered to drive me to Holloway Legal and Notary Services. The night before, she had texted me twice. First, don't forget our appointment tomorrow at 10:30.
Then, 20 minutes later.
It will only take a few minutes. Please try not to make it stressful. I read that second message several times. Please try not to make it stressful. As if stress was something I had created by asking what she wanted me to sign.
I did not answer either message. Louise drove us across town in silence for the first few minutes. She had known me since I started at the library.
We had raised our children in neighboring school districts, attended each other's husbands' retirement parties, and learned the difficult art of widowhood within a few years of each other. She never rushed me when I was trying to find the right words. Finally, she said, "Do you want me to come inside?" Yes, then I will. That may upset Melissa. Louise glanced at me. Rebecca, a person who gets upset because you bring a friend to read paperwork is not upset about the friend. That settled it. Holloway Legal and Notary Services occupied a narrow office between a tax preparer and a nail salon. The sign in the window had gold lettering that was beginning to peel at the corners. Inside, the waiting room smelled faintly of copier paper and lemon cleaner. Melissa was already there. She stood when she saw me, then stopped when she noticed Louise beside me. "Oh," she said. "Hello, Melissa," Louise said pleasantly. "Hi, Louise." Melissa's smile looked painted on. "I didn't realize you were bringing company. I wanted a second set of eyes," I said. Melissa placed her purse on the chair beside her. "Mom, this is private family business." "It is my business," I said, "and I choose who sits with me."
For 1 second, her face hardened.
Then she looked down and gave a small, wounded shake of her head. "I'm only trying to help." The receptionist appeared at the doorway before I could respond. "Mrs. Clark? Ms. Holloway is ready for you." The three of us followed her down a short hall into a tidy office with a round table in the center. A woman in her 50s stood beside it. She wore a charcoal blazer and reading glasses attached to a thin silver chain. "Mrs. Clark," she said. "I'm Patricia Holloway. I'm a notary public and document witness. It's nice to meet you." She shook my hand carefully, mindful of my caste. Then she looked at Louise. "And you are?" "Louise Bennett," Louise said. "I'm Mrs. Clark's friend." Melissa stepped forward. "She's only here because my mother has been anxious lately." I looked at Patricia Holloway.
"Mrs. Holloway, Louise is here because I asked her to be."
The notary gave a short nod. "Then she is welcome to sit with you, provided Mrs. Clark is comfortable." "I am." Melissa sat across from me. Louise took the chair beside mine. A neat stack of documents rested in the center of the table. Melissa reached for them before the notary could. "Mom, it really is simple," she said. "This just updates the first form. It gives me clearer authority if you are hospitalized again. It includes the house, bills, medical choices, all of that." "All of that," I repeated. Melissa gave a tight smile. "Only if you need me." She slid the first page toward me. At the top, in bold black letters, it said, "General Durable Power of Attorney." Below that, in language I did not recognize, were paragraphs granting authority to manage bank accounts, sign tax documents, access insurance information, deal with real estate, and make decisions connected to financial matters. There was also a separate medical authorization packet. I turned the pages slowly. Melissa began tapping one manicured fingernail against the table. "You don't need to read every paragraph," she said. "It's standard language." "I do need to read it," I said. "Mom," I said, "I need to read it." The room became very still.
Louise rested her hand lightly on my forearm.
She did not say anything. She did not need to, I continued. On the third page, I saw a sentence that made my stomach turn. The document would take effect immediately upon execution. Not if I became incapacitated. Not after a doctor determined I needed help. Immediately. "Melissa," I said, keeping my voice low, "you told me this was for emergencies." "It is. This says it takes effect the second I sign it. That is how they all work. Otherwise, every time something happens, people have to jump through hoops." "People?" "Families, Mom." I looked at the notary. "Is that true?" Patricia Holloway did not answer right away. "A durable power of attorney can be effective immediately," she said. "It can also be drafted to take effect only under specific circumstances. The important question is whether you understand what authority you are giving and whether you are doing so voluntarily." "I am not sure I am," I said. Melissa pushed back her chair. "Mom, we talked about this." "No," I said. "You talked. I listened because I trusted you." Her mouth opened, then closed. I picked up the next page. There was a signature line for me at the bottom. But it had already been filled in, not signed. My name was typed beneath the line, along with a date. March 14. My heart began beating so hard that I could feel it in my throat. I stared at that date. Then I looked at the pages behind it. There was another signature page, another document. And this one had what appeared to be my signature written in blue ink. Rebecca A. Clark. The handwriting was close. If I had seen it on a grocery receipt or a birthday card, I might have passed over it without a thought. But it was not mine. Not truly. My name slopes upward when I write it. The final letters in Clark are usually cramped together because I have always written too quickly. On that page, the letters were slow and deliberate, copied one at a time. My name looked like someone had studied it. "Why is there a signature here?" I asked. Melissa's eyes darted toward Patricia Holloway. "That was from when Mom and I discussed the form at the hospital," she said. She wanted to get ahead of everything. I did not take my eyes off the page. On March 14th. Yes. At the hospital. Yes, Mom. The notary reached forward. May I see that, please? Melissa hesitated. It was only a second, but it was enough. Patricia took the document and examined the signature page. Her expression changed almost immediately. She looked at the printed date beside my name, then at the acknowledgement section below it. Mrs. Clark, she said quietly, were you here on March 14th? I looked at her. No. Melissa leaned forward. She was in the hospital, but I was with her. She knew what she was doing. Patricia's eyes moved back to the document. This acknowledgement identifies this office as the location of notarization. Melissa went silent. Patricia continued, calm but firm. It also shows my notarial commission number. I felt the room tip around me.
What does that mean, I asked. It means this document represents that I personally witnessed you sign it here, in my office on March 14th.
I was not here, I said. No, Patricia said, and I was not working that day. I could hear the hum of the ceiling vent. Somewhere down the hall, a printer began whirring. Melissa stood so suddenly that her chair scraped against the floor. This is ridiculous, she said. My mother was on medication. She may not remember. Louise turned toward her. Rebecca remembers being admitted to the hospital with a fractured wrist, she said. Do you deny that? Melissa's eyes flashed. Stay out of this. No, I said. The word came out sharper than I intended. But I did not take it back. Melissa looked at me as if I had struck her. Mom, you are letting Louise poison you against me. I am asking you why there is a document saying I signed it in this office when I was in a hospital bed. You agreed to it, she said. You told me you wanted me to handle things if something happened. That is not what I asked. You always twist things when you're scared. I felt something inside me go quiet. It was not peace, it was clarity. For weeks, Melissa had used my fear as evidence against me. If I objected, I was anxious. If I forgot a detail, I was confused. If I wanted privacy, I was being difficult. Every normal response I had to losing control was being turned into proof that I deserved to lose more. I looked at Patricia Holloway. I will not sign anything today. Patricia nodded. That is entirely your decision. Melissa laughed once, without humor. Fine, don't sign it. But when you fall again or forget to pay your bills, don't expect me to keep rescuing. The cruelty of it sat between us. Not loud, not dramatic, just cold. I thought of her kneeling beside me on the icy patio. I thought of her telling me, stay still, Mom, I'm here. And I wondered how long she had been deciding that my life would be easier to manage if I had no say in it. You did not rescue me, I said. You drove me to the hospital, that is what a daughter does. Melissa's face changed. Then she grabbed her purse. You have no idea what I have been dealing with, she said. You have no idea how hard it is to be the only one who cares. She walked out before I could answer. The receptionist glanced up as Melissa passed through the waiting room, but no one followed her. The door closed behind her. For several seconds, I could not move. Patricia Holloway gathered the documents into a neat stack but did not put them away. Miss Clark, she said, I cannot tell you what legal action to take. But I strongly recommend that you speak to an attorney who handles elder law or estate planning as soon as possible. And I recommend you do not leave these documents with anyone who may have an interest in them. Can I have copies? I asked. Yes. Even the one that says I signed it? Yes. She made copies while I sat at the table with Louise. My hands were shaking, though I did not realize it until Louise covered my left hand with hers. You did well, she said. I feel sick. You feel sick because you have been trying to be fair to someone who was not being fair to you. I looked down at the empty chair where Melissa's had been sitting. She is my daughter. I know. That doesn't stop being true because she did something terrible. No, Louise said gently. But it does not make the terrible thing less true. Patricia came back with a sealed envelope containing copies. She also handed me a card for an attorney named Andrea Monroe. She is careful, Patricia said. That is the best thing I can tell you. I took the card. Andrea Monroe's office was not far from the library where I had worked. I called from Louise's car before we even left the parking lot. The receptionist asked whether I could come in the next morning. Yes, I said. Then I added, please do not confirm the appointment with anyone but me. The woman paused. Of course, Mrs. Clark. That night, I did not sleep much. I sat at my kitchen table with every paper I could find: bank statements, property tax receipts, the deed to the house, William's death certificate, insurance policies, my February power of attorney, the papers from Holloway's office. The fireproof box that had once made me feel prepared now looked like proof of how easily someone could use what I had spent my life protecting. At 10:30, my phone rang. It was Melissa. I let it go to voicemail. Her message began in a shaking voice. "Mom, I'm sorry things got emotional. I should not have raised my voice. But you have to understand, I'm trying to protect you from people who might take advantage of you." I almost laughed. Then she continued, "Please call me. Also, I need you to check something. Your bank sent a notice to my address by mistake, and it says there may be a hold on your account. I'm sure it's nothing, but I need to know what happened." I sat up straighter. My bank had sent a notice to her address? I had never changed my mailing address. The next morning, Louise drove me to Andrea Monroe's office. Andrea was younger than I expected, perhaps early 40s, with dark curls pulled back from her face and a row of thick legal binders behind her desk. She listened as I told her everything. She did not interrupt except to ask dates. When had I signed the first power of attorney? When had I been hospitalized? When did Melissa begin opening mail? Did I know whether she had access to my online banking passwords? Had I ever given written consent for her to change my mailing address? Had I noticed any withdrawals, transfers, or missing statements? I answered as carefully as I could. Then I placed the copied document from Holloway's office on her desk. Andrea read it once, then again. "This document is a serious concern," she said. "Because I didn't sign it?" "Because the notarization appears to state that you signed before a notary at a time when you say you were elsewhere."
If that is accurate, it raises questions about the document's validity and how it was created.
I hated the carefulness of her language, but I understood why she used it. She could not call my daughter a criminal because I was in pain and afraid. Not yet. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, we protect what can still be protected." She made a list. We would revoke the power of attorney I signed in February. We would send written notice of that revocation to Melissa and to my bank. We would ask the bank to flag my accounts for unusual activity and confirm every address, phone number, email address, and authorized contact associated with them. We would place copies of my medical records from March 14th into my file. We would review my property records and make sure no deed, mortgage, listing agreement, or transfer paperwork had been filed without my knowledge. "And if she already did something?" I asked. Andrea looked at me directly. "Then records will tell us what, when, and where. We will follow them." For the first time, I believed I might not have to solve everything alone. We called my bank from Andrea's office. The branch manager, a woman named Denise Carter, asked me to come in that afternoon with identification. She would not discuss account details over the phone, but her voice became more serious when Andrea told her there was concern about unauthorized paperwork. At the bank, Denise led us into a small glass-walled office. She closed the door. "Mrs. Clark," she said. "Did you authorize your daughter to update your mailing address last week?" "No." "Did you ask to add her as an online contact?" "No." "Did you request a transfer of $28,000 from your savings account?" My breath caught. "No." Denise opened a folder. "Then we have a problem." She turned a monitor slightly toward me. There, in the account history, was a transfer request dated 2 days earlier. $28,000 from... The destination account had not received the money. The transfer had been held because the receiving institution required additional verification. But the request was there, and beneath it was an uploaded document claiming Melissa had authority to act for me. The same document that said I had signed in the notary's office on March 14th. Denise folded her hands. "We have frozen the pending transfer," she said. "We will begin an internal review. I also need to tell you that the request included a note indicating the funds were intended as a deposit connected to a real estate transaction." I could not speak. Andrea did. "Can you identify the recipient?" Denise looked at the screen again, not without further review. "But it appears to be a title company. A title company. The pictures of my house."
Mr. Alvarez hearing Melissa ask whether I plan to sell. The papers granting authority over property.
I looked at Andrea. My daughter is trying to sell my home.
Andrea did not answer immediately.
She only reached for a legal pad and wrote down the name of the title company. Then she looked up at me. "Miss Clark?" she said. "We are going to find out exactly what your daughter told them." Andrea Monroe did not call the title company immediately. That surprised me. I was sitting across from her in the bank manager's office, staring at the words real estate transaction on the screen, and every part of me wanted someone to pick up a phone and stop whatever Melissa had started. But Andrea kept her voice calm. "First, we need to make sure the information they receive is complete," she said. "Then we need a record that you personally denied authorizing this transaction." She asked Denise Carter to print the transfer request, the mailing address change, and the uploaded power of attorney document. Denise placed each page in a folder, then had me sign a written statement confirming that I had not requested the transfer or authorized Melissa to make it. My hand shook as I signed, not because I did not know my own name, because I did. That was the whole point. I knew my name, I knew my home, I knew my savings. I knew exactly what had happened on March 14th. And I was done allowing anyone to use a broken wrist and a few days of pain medicine as a way to erase everything I knew. Once the paperwork was complete, Andrea called the title company on speakerphone. A receptionist transferred us to a closing attorney named Mark Ellison.
Mr. Ellison, Andrea said, I represent Becky Clark, the sole owner of 214
Willow Lane.
Mrs. Clark is sitting with me now. We have reason to believe her daughter,
Melissa Grant, may have submitted paperwork connected to an attempted transaction involving that property without Mrs. Clark's authority. The line was quiet. Then Mr. Ellison said, "I understand." His voice changed in a way that told me he understood more than he was saying. Andrea continued. "I can confirm that we received an inquiry," he said carefully.
No closing has occurred. No deed has been transferred.
I let out a breath I did not know I had been holding. Andrea asked, "What kind of inquiry?" Mr. Ellison paused. "There was a proposed sale. The person who contacted us identified herself as Mrs. Clark's agent under a durable power of attorney." My stomach tightened. "Was there a buyer?" Andrea asked. "Yes." "Was the property listed?" "Not through a conventional listing agreement, as far as I can tell." The buyer was described as an investor prepared to make a quick cash offer.
I thought of Mr. Alvarez seeing Melissa photograph my house. Not a realtor, not an open house, an investor. Someone who might not ask many questions, as long as the paperwork looked clean and the price was low enough. "What was the offer?"
Andrea asked. Mr. Ellison gave the number, $185,000. For the house William and I had spent 36 years paying for the brick walls we had painted ourselves, for the maple tree, for the guest room where Hannah had slept during summer visits, for every shelf, every floorboard, every memory my husband and I had built. The county assessed the house for far more than that. Even I knew it. She was going to sell it below value, I said. Mr. Ellison heard me.
"Mrs. Clark, I'm sorry," he said. "The proposed transaction raised concerns in our office."
The buyer's deposit had not yet been accepted. We requested additional identification and a current confirmation from the owner before moving forward. "Did Melissa tell you I was incapable?" Andrea asked. There was another pause. She said Mrs. Clark had suffered a fall and could no longer manage her own affairs. She said there was family consensus that a move to assisted living would be best. Family consensus. A phrase that made it sound like I had become an item on a meeting agenda. "And the $28,000? Andrea asked. "According to our records, it was described as funds needed to secure temporary housing and moving arrangements before the sale." I closed my eyes. Melissa had not only planned to sell my house, she had planned where I would go afterward. She had decided I would be moved, housed, managed, and paid for with my own money, all while calling it care.
Mr. Ellison agreed to send Andrea copies of every document, email, and communication his office had received.
He also confirmed that the title company would not proceed with any transaction involving my property without direct communication with me and my attorney. When the call ended, I sat very still.
Louise had met us at the bank and was waiting in the lobby.
Andrea had invited her into the office after the call.
She did not say, "I told you so." She did not tell me to be strong. She simply sat beside me and held my good hand. "I don't understand," I said after a while. "I don't understand why she would do this." Andrea closed the folder in front of her. "Sometimes the explanation is in the financial records," she said. "Sometimes it is in the person's messages. But today, we do not need to understand why Melissa did it before we protect you from what she did." That was another lesson I had to learn. For years, I had treated understanding as if it were the same thing as excusing. If I could understand why someone was hurting, I thought I was supposed to make room for the hurt they caused. But understanding a person's motive does not require you to hand them the key to your front door. Over the next week, Andrea moved carefully and quickly. She sent a formal revocation of my February power of attorney to Melissa by certified mail. She sent notice to my bank, the title company, my insurance provider, and the county recorder's office. She helped me create a new folder with passwords, account information, and medical preferences that only I controlled. I changed my mailing address back to my own home. I changed my online banking password. I had my locks rekeyed. That last decision hurt more than I expected. The locksmith asked whether I wanted all the exterior locks changed, including the back door. "Yes," I said. Then he asked whether anyone else had a key. I thought of Melissa's key ring, the same one she had used to let herself in after my fall. The same one I had once been grateful she carried. "My daughter does," I said. He waited. "Then I recommend changing every lock," he said. So I did. When he finished, he placed 2 new keys in my hand. They were small and bright and ordinary, but I held them for a long time. 3 days after the bank meeting, Denise Carter called. The transfer had been fully canceled. The bank's internal review had confirmed that Melissa had submitted the request using the document from Holloway's office. Denise said the bank's fraud department would preserve the records and cooperate with any investigation requested by law enforcement. Then Andrea the documents from the title company. There were emails, there were forms, and there was a message from Melissa that I will never forget. It had been sent to the investor 2 days before my appointment at Holloway Legal. It said, "My mother has declining capacity and cannot handle the pressure of a normal sale. I have authority to act for her. If we can move quickly, I can have her out within 2 weeks." I read that sentence 3 times. I can have her out within 2 weeks. Not we can help her move. Not she has decided to leave. I can have her out. I thought of the guest room she had wanted me to stay in. I thought of the way she had opened my mail and answered my phone. I thought of her standing in my living room and looking at the rugs, the stairs, the rooms, as if she were already planning what could be removed. The email had attached photographs of my house. Some were from outside. Others were from inside. My dining room, my bedroom, William's workshop in the garage. I had not given Melissa permission to photograph any of it, but the evidence that stopped me cold was a photograph of the fireproof box in my closet, the box where I kept the deed, insurance papers, and records of the life William and I had made. She had taken a picture of it while I was at physical therapy. Andrea saw my face. "What is it?" "That's my closet," I said. "That is inside my bedroom." Did she have permission to be in there? No. I felt a strange kind of grief then. Not fear, not anger, grief. Because there are some betrayals that cannot be measured only by money or documents. Melissa had walked through the most private parts of my life, opened drawers that were not hers to open, and looked at everything I had protected as if it were already inventory. Andrea asked whether I wanted to report what we had found. I looked at the papers on her desk, the false notarization, the attempted transfer, the unauthorized address change, the emails, the house photographs, the investor offer, the statement that I was too impaired to manage my life. "Yes," I said. My voice was quiet, but it did not shake.
"I want the truth on record." Andrea explained that making a report did not mean anyone could promise an immediate outcome. Investigators would need to review the documents.
The bank had its own process.
The notary's office had made a report concerning the misuse of its commission information. The title company would preserve its evidence.
I understood. Justice did not arrive like it did in a television show.
With handcuffs in the driveway before sunset, it arrived in folders, in dates, in receipts, in statements signed by people who had seen the truth clearly enough to write it down. Melissa came to my house the following Saturday.
I knew she was there before she knocked because Mr. Alvarez called me. "Your daughter's car is outside," he said. "Do you want me to come over?" "No," I told him. "But thank you." Andrea had advised me not to meet with Melissa alone. Louise came over and sat in the living room with me before I opened the door. Melissa stood on the porch in a beige coat holding a bakery box. For one foolish second, I remembered her as a little girl bringing me dandelions in a paper cup. Then she saw Louise behind me. Her expression tightened. "Can we talk privately?" "No," I said. "Mom." "No, Melissa." She looked down at the bakery box. "I brought you lemon cake. You like the one from Parker's." "I do." The words nearly broke me, because she still knew what I liked. She knew the small details. The things that make a mother believe love is present even when everything else begins to say it is not. "I know you're angry," she said, "but this has gotten out of control. It got out of control when you used a document that said I signed it at an office I had never entered." Her face went pale. "You talked to the notary." "Yes." "You talked to a lawyer." "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears. "Mom," I was scared. "Of what?" She looked away. "Of losing everything." I waited. Finally, she said, "Paul's business is failing. We're behind on the house. There are bills you don't know about. I thought if we sold your place, we could get you somewhere safer, and we could all breathe for once."
You don't need a 3-bedroom house anymore. There it was. Not an apology.
A calculation. I felt my shoulders straighten.
You thought my home was the answer to your bills.
I thought it was an asset sitting there while you were struggling alone. I was not struggling alone. You made me look alone so you could take control. She started crying harder then. "I did not want to hurt you." "Then why did you tell people I could not remember my own life?" She did not answer. "Why did you change my mailing address?" No answer. "Why did you ask a buyer to move quickly before I could understand what you were doing?" Still no answer. I looked at the bakery box in her hands. "You came here hoping I would let you explain this until it sounded smaller than it was. That's not fair." "No," I said. "It is exactly fair." Melissa wiped her face. "So what happens now?" I had wondered that myself. Late at night when the house was quiet. What happens when the person who tried to take your independence is still your child? The answer was not revenge. It was not pretending it never happened either.
"My attorney is in the documents,"
I said. "The bank and the other offices will do their reviews. You will speak to them through counsel if you need to." Her mouth fell open.
You're reporting me? I am reporting what happened. But I'm your daughter.
"Yes," I said. "You are." She looked at me as if that should have changed everything. It did not. "I love you," I told her. "But love does not give you permission to lie about me, sell my home, or use my pain to take my choices away." She stood on the porch for another moment, holding the cake neither of us wanted. Then she set it down beside the door and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away. I did not run after her. That was the hardest thing I have ever done. The investigation took time. The bank permanently closed the unauthorized transfer request and restricted Melissa from acting on my accounts. The title company confirmed in writing that no sale had been completed and that no future file involving my home would be opened without my direct written instruction and attorney verification. The county recorder placed a notification service on my property file so I would be alerted if anyone tried to record documents connected to my home.
The notary's office submitted its records about the false acknowledgement.
Andrea sent the hospital admission record from March 14th, which showed that I had been admitted for treatment when the document claimed I was in the notary's office. Those records did not make the heartbreak easier, but they made the truth harder to deny.
Several weeks later, Melissa sent me a letter through Andrea. It was not a perfect apology. It did not explain everything away. It did not ask me to forget.
She admitted she had been under financial pressure. She admitted she had used the document without my informed permission. She admitted she had convinced herself that because I was older, she had the right to make decisions I might not agree with. She said she was ashamed. I read the letter at my kitchen table. Then I placed it in a folder labeled Melissa, not in the trash, not in the fireproof box, in a folder. Because I had learned that forgiveness, if it ever came, would have to live beside the facts. I did not see Melissa for several months after that. Hannah called me sometimes. I never spoke badly about her mother. I only told the truth when Hannah was old enough to ask it. Your mother made decisions she had no right to make, I said, and I had to protect myself. One afternoon, near the end of summer, I stood beneath the maple tree in the backyard with a small bowl of bird's seed in my left hand. My wrist had healed, the cast was gone. A physical therapist had taught me how to use the back steps more carefully, and Mr. Alvarez had helped install a second rail. The air smelled like warm grass. I scattered the seed beneath the tree and watched 2 sparrows land near the patio. For years, I thought independence meant never needing anyone. I know now that it does not. Independence means having the right to decide who helps you, what help you accept, and where the limits are. It means asking questions even when the person across from you shares your last name. It means reading every page. And it means that dignity is not something age takes from you. It is something you protect, one clear decision at a time. If this story reminded you that love should never require surrendering your voice, please like this video, subscribe for more evidence-driven family justice stories, and share your answer in the comments. What document would you never sign without an independent witness beside you?